kia ora, Helen Brown, Secondary Live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling day. It has been an incredible day. But first of all, welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1263. Ooh, we're getting up there, getting close to that 4-year mark. Less than half away from half, actually. 961. I'll have to figure that out later. We're almost at the 3.5-year mark, or we just passed it. I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. 365 divided by 2 is 180 something. 1096 plus 180. We're past it. Anyway, so welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about 5 tips to prepare for researching your family tree. It's going to be fun. I like this one. I like anyone, and I just thought of something else to go in here. Okay, so in a very long day, I've done a lot of talking, so if my voice is a little croaky, please forgive me. All right, now that we have the vocal cords lubricated a little bit. So when it comes to preparing researching your family tree, there are 5 things you need to look at. And one of those 5 things has a little sub menu off it too. But the first thing is, what do you already know? What do you already know about your family tree? If you don't have it written down, write it down. Write down everything that you have heard, everything you know to be true. Write down all the rumors that you have heard, anything any family member has told you over the years. Write it down, because that is a starting place. Then we can go and pick out the points. Because when it comes to researching, yes, it's great to go, I'm going to go research my family tree. And you can get in there, you can get down rabbit holes, and you can get completely lost and get off track and everything else. So first of all, we start off with writing down everything that we know about the family, all the rumors, everything. Even if you go through photographs to help jog your memory about different details and stuff. But start with, what do you know? Write everything down. Part of that too, with the what do you know, would also be, actually that one comes later. I'm just looking at my list. So number 1 is, what do you know? Write down everything that you know. You can sit and you can type it all up. You can put it in a tree, whatever. Then number 2 is, what one question do you want to answer? This is going to be your research question. Because when we have a research question, we are more focused. We're not going off on we can go off on tangents. Just ask me how I know. But it helps us stay focused. Like one of the research questions I have is for my 4th great grandfather on my father's. Hang on, which one is he? Is it on the mother's side or the father's side? I've totally forgotten which side of the family. He's on my father's side of the family, and I can't remember if he's on my grandfather's side. He is. He's on my grandfather's side. So one of my questions is, what happened to William Morris? He was my 4th great grandfather. I know very little about him, but I do know this. I know that he was on his son's marriage certificate was listed as a foreign agent. On the 1951 census in England, he was his wife listed herself as the wife of a jeweler. So he was a jeweler. I've got all these little pieces of information, but somewhere between the 1951 census and 1851 census, which was a century off. Somewhere between the 1851 census and 1852, something happened to him. We don't know if they got divorced, if he was lost at sea, if he died. Don't know. That's what I want to find out. What happened to William Morris, who was my 4th great grandfather? So that's one question that I have. And I have, and you can put William Morris, who was born about here, what happened to him between, who was married to, actually, no, he was Price. She was Morris. Sorry, I have a lot of research questions I'm working on. Every now and again, I pick up one and do some more work on it. So it's what happened to William Price, who was married to Elizabeth Morris. That's the way it goes, and is the father of William Henry Morris Price. William Henry Morris Price. So I've got to find out what happened to William Henry Price, who was the father, who married Elizabeth Morris and was the father of William Henry Morris Price. I finally got that all sorted out and out. So that is my research question. What happened to him between 1851 and 1853? 51, 50. It's either 52 or 53. I can't remember. I haven't got the question up. So that's my research question. So then what I had to do was draw out a research. And so that was step number 2. What is your question? The one question you want to answer. You don't just go, oh, I want to go find all my family. That's just too broad. You need to narrow it down, because when you narrow it down some, it helps you focus. You're not scatterbrained all over the place. It's like when you're out networking, they always say the more specific you are, the more referable you become. So you may be a travel professional. I'm a travel professional. Oh, okay. But of course, the travel industry is such a vast industry. Do you specialize in cruises? Do you specialize in groups? Do you specialize in land tours? Do you specialize in a destination? Do you specialize in corporate travel? Do you specialize in, there's so many different aspects to the travel industry. But if you turn around and say something like, sorry, I just thought I heard a siren, but it turns out to be a plane. A plane coming into land, and it's got that high-pitched noise as it comes into land. We're on the flight path for Lucas Air Force Base. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So if you turn around and you say that I'm a luxury travel concierge, that now narrows you down a little bit, and you deal with high-end people, with the high-end market of that. You deal with the luxury cruises, the luxury hotels. You could even turn around and say, I am a luxury adventurer concierge, which means you're looking at the 5-star adventure tours and that sort of thing. So you start to narrow it down, because if somebody turns around and says, oh, I do travel. Okay. It could be any type of travel. How do you refer that person? But if they turn around and say that they are a cruise specialist, then you know that, okay. And they may even turn around and say, I'm a cruise specialist for Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. And that gives them even more that they turn around and they hear somebody talking about going to Australia and New Zealand. Oh, I got just the person you need to talk to, da, 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 da. And then they might come out and go, look, I don't know anybody who wants to go to Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific on a cruise or a land tour, but I've got somebody who wants to go to Europe. Can you help them with that? So it gets them asking other questions. So this is why when you have a research question, you make it as specific as you can, but still broad enough to give you some flexibility in there. So, my question of what happened to William Henry Price between 1851 and 1853. What happened to him during that time? So that's my question. I've got 2 years in there to figure it out. The problem is that there is a lot of William Henry Prices around. It's almost as bad as looking for John Smith. I kid you not. In England around that time, it was almost looking like for John Smith. So now you need to draw out your research plan. You know that he was, by that point he was a father. By that point that he was a jeweler. So we know that he was the father of William Henry Morris Price. We know that he was married to Elizabeth Morris. I have a copy of the birth of the marriage certificate. I have a copy of my third great-grandfather's birth certificate. I also have a copy of my third great-grandfather's baptismal record, which has the father listed on there, but it says he was a resident at, which meant was past tense. So this is why what happened to him. I also know that Elizabeth Morris Price got married again around 1853. 1853. She got remarried to a guy who lived down the street who was a bookbinder. because I was trying to figure out, how did my third great-grandfather become a bookbinder when his father was a jeweler? And that's why, because his stepfather was a jeweler, a bookbinder, and my third great-grandfather was born in 1849. So there's following these little breadcrumbs. So I've got information that I know. What other records do I need that I can look at that may have that information? Looking at death records, looking for divorce records, looking for probate. These are things that I would write down, see if I can find a probate for him in which his wife and child are mentioned. Could I find a death record for him? There are a lot of, I tell you, William Henry Price, there were a few of them that died in that time frame. So it was like, okay. And I can look up the date for that census in 1851, because at that time in 1851, she was still married to William Henry Price. And then I can put down, this is my to-do list of where I'm going to start researching. Is there an obituary for him at that time? Is there a cemetery record? What other records could I look at? Did he own any land? I can look for land deeds. Did he own any of that? What happened to that after he passed away? So which, again, we're looking for probate files. Then you can interview family members. And there may be family members that are around that may have information about that person that you're looking for. What information do they have? Because that will also, by interviewing your family members that are alive that may have information about that person you're looking for. Not many people that are alive that have information about my fourth great-grandfather. But you never know. There may be stories that have passed down through the generations over time. And so you take those stories and how much truth is in those stories. So now we've got these stories that we can research that relate to this particular thing. Can I find him on the 1851 census? Because he is not listed with his family in 1851. Because on his son's marriage certificate lists him as a foreign agent, he may actually have been overseas at the time when the 1851 census was done. Or he could be staying somewhere else when he was on his way home to his family, or on his way back to the port to get on a ship to go to go east to do some more gem buying of precious stones and gemstones and things. We don't know. Are there any DNA results that could help us locate more information? This one being my fourth great-grandfather, it could be a little more trickier, because with each generation you're losing 50% of the information, because you get 50% of your autosomal DNA from your mother, 50% from your father. You get the Y DNA is only passed from father to son. So I would have to get a close male relative, because it's also on my father's side of the family and my father's side of the family, although it stops. Because my third great-grandfather in that line, there is a female that stops the Y DNA transfer. So this is going to make it a little, so maybe I need to look at the mitochondrial one, because actually, no, I can't even do that, because that's not passed from father to son. That's only passed from mother to child. Might be a little difficult with that one. So it's looking at, which DNA testing will help me find a relative who is related to this person. Maybe they have information. I don't know. But in some cases, you can use DNA results to help find more information about the person that you're looking for, by finding a blood relative and then figuring out how they're related, that sort of thing. So DNA results can come into it based on who you're looking for, how far back you're going, and that sort of information. If it is a straight male line all the way back, then yeah, you will find those Y DNA things. If it's the maternal line all the way back, then you'll be able to use the mitochondrial DNA testing, because that's passed from mother to child. And it stops with the males, because the males can't pass it on. So that's step number 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is broken down into what records are you going to need to have a look at, so you make up your to-do list. Where would you find those records? So what records are you looking for? Where would you find them? You may even have to go to like genealogical societies or family history societies, your local archives, places like that, to help find information as well. Are there any family members around that you could interview about the person that you're doing the research on? Could DNA results help? So those are like the subsets to drawing up your research plan. Number 4 is create your research log in your to-do list. So you have one page, which is the date, the time, what you looked at, what you discovered. Even if you don't discover the right, you discover a negative, you get a negative result, write it down, because now you've got, I looked in this place here, there was no record. You need to write that down, because otherwise you could end up going back to that place and searching and going, there's no record here, because you didn't write it in your research log. So whether you have a good result or a bad result, you write it in your research log. And the other thing I say is to have a to-do list, is because there's stuff that is going to come up when you're researching this question. When you're researching the answer to the question, there is going to be things that pop up that's going to make you want to go over to that little other rabbit hole and go down that other rabbit warren. We're going to take note of that to come back to this particular website or this particular repository, this particular record, to have a look for more information for this person. So you have it in your to-do list. So you're creating a to-do list of other things that you can come back and research, but you want to stay on track to research that question. And then step number 5 is upload the information that you know into a genealogy software or a genealogical site. So you can use Family Tree Maker that integrates with Family Tree Maker. It was the very first software program I used. And then when we went to an all-Mac house, I had to give it up because it was only PC-based at the time. Now it's back on Mac. It will integrate with Ancestry. You've also got FamilySearch.org, which is a free site. There are some conditions with FamilySearch.org in that anybody can come in and make changes to the tree. I have run into many issues with that, where somebody comes in and makes the change and they don't put why. And I happen to have a physical copy of a record which verifies my information. And so I will change it back and put in there, information was taken directly off a copy of marriage certificate number, blah, 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 blah. And I put the source in there. And I've had other people, even though I've put that, they've come and changed the information back to something else. And I contacted the person. I says, why do you keep changing stuff? Well, I know for a fact. I says, what proof do you have? What documentation? Well, I was told this and blah, 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 blah. I said, I have a copy of the actual marriage certificate in my hand. So please stop changing my tree. I had another person who put one of my brother-in-laws as being dead. And he's very much alive. And when I told her that, she's like, oh, maybe I got the brother wrong. And I was like, well, who are you? How are you related? Oh, I'm not related to anyone in the family. I'm just a good friend of this particular person who happens to be a member of that family. And so I just thought I'd just go and have a look and so she just went in there and blatantly just clicked links to that person without even doing any research to find out if it was true information or not. She just put on what she thought she knew. And I'm sitting there going, oh. So I told her to play. And at the time I was actually on one of my genealogical classes. And I said, I'm actually a professional genealogist. And right now I am doing this class. And this is what we're talking about, is having proof. Before you put any information in there, make sure you've got stuff to back it up with. And so she said, oh, well, maybe we can get together and I can learn from you. And I'm so like, maybe one day I'll get there where I want to teach other people. But, I'm willing to help people research their tree. I will, if somebody is researching their family tree and they follow these steps, they come across a brick wall, I'm more than happy to help coach them through those brick walls or give them ideas on other places they could research and that sort of thing. But to have somebody who just sits there and just clicks, oh yeah, that's related, click, without even knowing full well if they are or not. And then somebody like me has to come along who has the correct information and has to go and correct this tree. So FamilySearch.org is a great site, but please be aware that people can come in and change the tree. Not only that, they have a huge free data bank of information. One of my favorite things on their website is the Research Wiki. And the Research Wiki, you go in there and you click what country you want to look at. If you're in somewhere like the US, what state do you want to have a look at? If you're in England, what county do you want to research? And you go in there and it will have history for that state or county. But not only that, it lists all the different records available in that state. And when you click on like vital records, which are birth, deaths, and marriages, you can go in there and it tells you, are they available online? If they're available online, up to what year are they available online? But not only that, what year did they start requiring that state, town, county, parish had to start recording that information? And the federal government had a date that they wanted everybody to start recording, but the states, of course, had their own dates that they started. And it also tells you, are the records held online? And if they're held online, where are they held online? If they are not online, where can you get access to them? Because they may be kept at a parish level, a town level, a city level, a county level, a district level, a state level. So it tells you where you have to go to find that information. And then it's also got other information in there like immigration, land records, court records. Court records, you can find divorces in there. You can find not really adoptions, because most of those were done closed. But you can find also, arrest records, court cases, all sorts of things. There's a whole bunch. And if you go into the research wiki, if you're on familysearch.org, go to the search button, click on that, and go down the bottom where it says research wiki. There is a ton, and it gives you the history of that area. So you know what was going on at the time, what were times like at certain periods that may be impacting where you're researching. It will tell you if there were any fires that destroyed records. There is a lot of information in there. And when it comes to research, especially for genealogy, it gives you an idea of some of the changes that the counties went through, because county lines changed all the time. So you may have somebody who on a census report was, say, in, I don't know, Williams County, and then 10 years later, they're in Somerset County, and go, oh, they moved. But hang on, the street address is the same. It's because the county line moved. So in one census, they were in one county. The next census, they were in another county, but they were still at the same address. So looking at the census reports will show you things like that too. And by going into the research wiki, you can see at what time you can look back at maps that they have with different years when the counties changed and that sort of thing. And so you can see, oh, that's where they were. Oh, now I see. In that year, which is between the 10 years, they actually changed, they switched the county lines and things. So there's all sorts of stuff that goes off. And city lines change and town lines change. Towns grow. They used to be out in the country. Now they're part of town. That sort of stuff. It's fascinating what's in there. But if you upload your information to things like, you can do it to familysearch.org. You can do it to, there's MyHeritage. There's Ancestry being the big one. There are one like MyHeritage and Ancestry do have subscriptions, and depending on how much research as to what subscriptions you want to pay for. I have the Whippy-Doo one. I've had the Whippy-Doo one since they started the subscription service. I've been with Ancestry over 20 years. I've basically been with Ancestry since they started, since they first came online. And then when they started charging for subscriptions, I started paying. So, and I do an annual membership every year, and it has all the bells and whistles because I use all the bells and whistles. And all the bells and whistles also gives me access to newspapers.com, where you can go and look up newspapers from around the world. You can look up for newspaper articles, marriage announcements, obituaries, that sort of thing as well. Most of the newspapers are on there. And then it also gives you access to Fold 3, and Fold 3 is your military records. So you can look up military records based on World War I, World War II, the Boer War, the Korean War, Vietnam. Just about every campaign is in there. You can even look up by country. I have found grandparents. I have found grandparents in there. I found my great-grandfather, my grandfather in there. My great-grandfather's in there. I found some of their siblings in some of the records as well. So it's actually quite an interesting site to go visit and see who's in there and that especially in your family tree, if there's been military service in there. And I've got a lot of military service in my background, in my ancestry. So, so those, and by putting them into and you can even get software programs like the Family Tree Maker. And what was the other one that I had? There's a Family Tree Builder, Family Tree Maker. There's all those sorts of ones where you don't even have to have an online subscription to anything. You just want to keep it in one place where you can see it. You can see it in tree format. You can see it in a fan shape. The fan shape will be you're here at the bottom of the fan, and then you basically go straight up the middle. This side is the mother, which is when you're looking at the screen, the right side, and the left side is the father. The males are always on the left, females are always on the right. So when you see a couple listed, even when you're going up one side of the tree. Left is male, right is female every time. No exceptions on that one. And children are usually listed in birth order. Once you've put all the birth dates in there, all the years, it will then rearrange the children in the order of birth, which helps a lot too at times. And one tip when you're looking at obituaries, if they list children, they typically list the children from oldest to youngest in an obituary. So that helps you too. So those are the 5 steps. What do you know? What one question do you want to answer? Just work on one question at a time. It's because if you're working on multiple questions at once, like I just want to research my tree, that is so overwhelming. But if you narrow down to that one question, you can get in there, you look at that, you research it, you do everything you possibly can, exhaust your research things. There's even tags that you can put on some of the tree programs that says unverified, verified. So unverified means that you don't have enough evidence to prove that this person may belong in your tree or that it is the right person, or you some detail that you have in there, be it a birth, a death, a marriage, the number of children they have not been verified because you haven't found a document that links them all together or something like that. So yes, I have many relatives in my thing that are unverified because I'm still trying to find their actual details and stuff. So let's see. Number 1 is what do you know? Number 2 is what one question do you want answered? Number 3 is draw out your research plan. Number 4 is create your research log and to-do list, because your to-do list will come up as you're researching. You'll find other things you want to go and have a look at, but it doesn't pertain to your question, so it gets put on a to-do list to come back to later. And number 5, upload the information into a genealogy software program or online to one of the sites there. And under drawing out your plan, what records will have the information that you need? Where will you find those records? Are you able to interview family members about the information? Are there any DNA results that may help you with the research? So things like that. And that's it from me for today. If you want to find out more, there is a link in the description below where you can go and get your free copy of 100 family interview questions. And once you've downloaded that, you then get the option to set up a time with me if you would like to talk further. So without further ado, I am off to have a nice relaxing evening where I can rest my voice. So have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hei konara.